I'm a big fan of these Buffalo Trace cigars. They're actually quite delicious. It's very reasonable as far as price, and I mean, to me, this is a super high quality cigar. So I'm gonna get this thing going. People sometimes ask me, like, what is a divergence? What the current price is, an incredible equation that takes into account volume, price, and time. Maybe I could draw it out better. This might actually be better. Oh, how best to explain what a divergence is? So everybody knows this, or what I'm about to draw here. So it's just your basic, your supply and your demand curve. We all remember this from high school. Did they teach this in high school anymore? Economics 101. You got your supply curve or your supply line, supply curve. It's rarely straight like this, no matter what you're analyzing. You got your demand curve or your demand line. Your x-axis is quantity, and then your y-axis is price. And then what happens in a divergence, everything wants to be in equilibrium. That intersection of the supply and demand in relationship to quantity and price always wants to come back to the equilibrium point. And that's the basis of all those economic equations that they teach you in Economics 101 back in, or basic economics that they teach you back in high school. One thing though, I'm gonna draw on a z-axis, and hopefully this doesn't get too confusing, right? So kind of picture that. So we got the typical, what you see most times is in a supply and demand graph is you got the price on your y-axis, you got your quantity. And then you have your function or your equation or your equilibrium calculation. That's part of a larger calculation, and it always wants to find that center point right there. That's the equilibrium point right there. So what happens in a divergence is, for whatever reason, there's a shortage happens or a surplus happens. Up here, this is a surplus. This would be your shortage area. Now, one thing you got to think of, though, is, so I'm getting here somewhere with this. Price wants to stay in equilibrium. It'll always strive to go back to equilibrium. For whatever reason, price temporarily got out of equilibrium. If you picture this as a price, we could think of this as volume. And we could think of, if you got to use your imagination here, but it's not two-dimensional, this equation changes over time. So if you picture going into the page here, this is time, and we could think of this one as time. The equation is constantly changing, and this is going to look horrible, so you got to use your imagination. So you could think of these as that this whole thing right here, right, is a derivative of price, volume, and time. Think of this as an equation of where your equilibrium point is. And when the equilibrium point gets out of whack, it wants to come back into equilibrium. And then when we look at our different indicators that are price, volume, and time, the indicators give us insight on if potentially that perfect equilibrium equation, as it travels through time, price and volume, if it is somehow out of whack. So when you see that, it always wants to come back into equilibrium. So that's basically what a divergence is, this very complex relationship between price, volume, and time. And that's basically it. And now sometimes when we do harmonic patterns, pattern recognition in the charts, or we're seeing something in the indicators, there's many different ways of seeing divergences or locating them, on the charts. This is but when you find a divergence, that's why they're so powerful. And if you could find a divergence in confluence with your indicators, or in confluence with like a harmonic pattern, when if you can envision this very complex equation, sometimes that equilibrium point likes to move like a bat. Sometimes it likes to move like a Gartley. Sometimes sometimes it likes to move like, like a shark. If we could find divergences that also have confluence with, say, a target on a harmonic pattern, or confluence with your indicators, or confluence with, established support and resistance zones. Hopefully there's also a divergence there, which would signal that that this complex equation is off of equilibrium and it's going to come back to equilibrium. You almost want to always have a divergence. You should be looking for those all the time. Like, for example, like this is a great divergence right here. So our oscillator 5 is going up and price is going down. That's a divergence. And hopefully we had confluence with other things. I'm not seeing a divergence here, but a potential divergence here could be here on the oscillator 5 is, say we hit a retracement here on the price. Like we come back up and we retrace and then price starts to turn. Let's say we just did a simple retracement right there to the 382. Like a divergence would be, say we moved up and then the indicators kind of came like that, right? Started to turn here. And so right here, this would be a potential divergence that could possibly play out, and something you should really look for. So it's like, oh my goodness, we're poking $18.75 again. Oh, we're gonna crash for sure this time. It's we got ourselves descending a triangle pattern, something like that. If the indicators is showing you something like this, that is a very bullish divergence. In a situation like this, I would be looking to buy, because we have this divergence. I would be looking to buy here with the expectation that this divergence here, especially on a 12-hour, like a big time frame like this, that the price would then reverse. And when price reverses, this is what's happening. We have a divergence where we're off of equilibrium. Our indicators, which are price, volume, and time, that's the information that it presents to you, and it presents it to you in a graphical way. You have a divergence because our equation, our equation here is at an equilibrium and it wants to find that spot back up. Always look for divergences. And then I don't know how I got off on this little tangent right here. On this video, I just really wanted to point out that some of the different divergences. I went down this rabbit hole though, but what divergences do I consider they're most reliable? The MDX oscillator, I think, and the divergences that you can see on there is just because they're so crispy. I also like the stochastic RSI. Stochastic RSI, if you don't have the MDX indicators, I would say divergences on the stochastic RSI, or if you were just looking at the RSI itself. If I didn't have the MDX oscillator, I would love to find divergences either on the QQE or the stochastic RSI. Let's see if we can find one here. Yeah, here's one right here. Yeah, actually, this is a good one right here. I'm trying to draw. It's too low. So you have that, and it actually picked it up here. I hope you could see that. And you had price action move down here. If you were just doing a stochastic RSI trading setup, when you break out of the, when you come from overbought, and we did have a little bit of a pump up, and then price came back down. And then when you see this starting to turn, if you went down to lower time frame, if you see that starting to turn, that would be like your double bottom. And that would be a strong signal to go ahead and enter into a trade. The best divergences are by far the MDX indicator divergences. I think they're just so crispy. They're so clean. And if you were in here earlier, if you smooth out the humpity bumps, and there's none that are, whether it's regular or hidden or bearish or bullish, they're all equal. All those divergences mean is that we're off that equilibrium point. But you can kind of see here with the smooth QQE, this picked up this divergence here. It picked up that divergence there. Whereas if you had all the humpity bumps in there and without the unsmooth version, I think this is crazy. I didn't realize how awesome this was. I never used, since the updates, I really never used the smooth MDX oscillator 5. And now I'm gonna make it into a regular thing now. I'm not gonna keep both of them up. I'll just come over here toggle oscillator smooth. I'll just toggle that button. Wow, what just another mad scientist, fucking genius. So if your question was which divergences are the best, they're all the best. And you could find them. You could find them just about anywhere. Price, volume, time is just off this equilibrium point, and it always wants to find its way back. And so it's almost like cheating when you have an indicator that's like super awesome that can show you where, you know, price, volume, time, that very complex equation is off kilter. That was a long-winded question to probably something that could have been answered in 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to log off, give everybody a break. Stu's going to come in about an hour. I'll be there for that. All right, awesome. I'm just going to end this up, and I'm going to take care of a few things, and I'll see you guys all at 4. Guys,
I guess I should actually look at some charts now and get a game plan. Hey.
Oh man, I hope I didn't fuck you up.
Oh no.
Okay. All right. Well, looking forward to it. I'm just gonna jump out. So later, guys.